As a way of centering us for our time, I want to share with you Psalms 30, and I'll be using the New Revised Standard Version. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up, and you did not let my foes rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me. O Lord, you brought me up from the soul, from Sheol, restored me to the life from among those gone down to the pit. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his faithful ones, and give thanks to his holy name. For his anger is but for a moment, his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes with the morning. As for me, I said in my prosperity, I shall never be moved. By your favor, O Lord, you have established me in a strong mountain. You hid your face, I was dismayed. To you, O Lord, I cried, and to the Lord I made supplication. What profit is there in my death if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord, and be gracious to me. O Lord, be my helper. If you have turned my mourning into dancing, you have taken my sackcloth and clothed me with joy, so that my soul may praise you and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Hi, I want to welcome you to Hobson UMC on YouTube. I am V.H. Sonny Dixon Jr. I am the lead pastor here, and I'm in for my weekly conversation with my son Trey, where I share with you some thoughts that I'm having about the upcoming message for this coming week, which is the third week in Easter, third week of Easter. And we just it's a time for us to kind of catch up and talk to him and see if he can help me with some context for the message for this week, and just sharing some time together. We are truly appreciative when you let us know that you have tuned in and that we have said something that brought you some comfort at a particular time where you might have needed it. Or something that may have challenged you along the way. But we are thankful that you let us know that you appreciate us being here. And I also want to just take this opportunity to thank those of you who support us in other ways here at Hobson, and so we are thankful for that also. So I hope you enjoy this week. An important time whenever we gather at Hobson is for us to share with one another those things that are upon our hearts, that are those things that we deeply care about and we are concerned with, our joys and our celebrations and all of the things of which we want to know people. We give thanks to God for making it happen, or we truly need God to be able to step in and to help us to be able to make it through that time. And we do that, whether it's in doing worship or a small group, whenever we gather, we set aside some time for that. And so we do in this time. And I do encourage you, if you have prayers that you want us to share, want me to be in prayer for, please let me know about that. One of the things that has become very important for us is the sharing of birthdays and the birthday shout-outs. In fact, today I was voting and ran into a person who was there, and she thanked me for the shout-out as I was waiting for that long list of people that we needed to vote for. So this week, our birthday shout-outs include certainly one want to make sure, and that is Lawana Coleman Johnson. Her birthday is this week. And also Melissa Magnum. Danielle Nellis, his birthday is this week, and it's also going to be a busy week for her. She's running for office, and so we want to lift her up as she celebrates and hope that it is truly a celebratory week for her. Jessica Lillard Moore, Megan Houston, Reverend Dr. Chris Jackson at Pleasant Green, LaWanda Shaw, Lorenzo Short, Melva Black, Ed Cole, Ian Deacons, Ann Taylor Thorpe, Tom Rainey, Hilly Hicks Sr., Teresa Jones, Reverend Dr. Edith Winter Kimbrough, Marilyn Jackson, Aisha Brown, Toby Compton, Council Lady Delisha Danielle Porterfield. Also heard that she picked up a petition and will be running for another office, and so we want to lift her up in prayer. Maria Bala and Tangela Odom Hayes. Please, if you know these people, send them a shout out during the course of the week. Want to ask for prayers for the family and friends of Cara McTorry. This week will be the anniversary of her death, and so we want to hold each of them in our hearts as I know it will be a difficult and challenging time for them. Also, I want to ask for prayers for Justin Allen, who had some surgery, messed up a tendon and Achilles, and just want to be in prayer for him as he recuperates. And also I ask for prayer for Pam Hicks, who is also, she didn't have surgery, but she's having some problem with her back, and will be starting physical training treatment for it, and so we're lifting up in prayer. As a celebration, I want to send shout-outs to Tandra and Ned. They have a wedding anniversary coming this week. And then I want to send out a shout-out to Lena Edley Dye. Her daughter, Sydney, will be graduating this week from Tennessee State University, and Don Judge Westbrook, her son, Tori, will be graduating from Fisk, and so we want to be sending shout-outs to them. Important, always in our time of prayer, we're praying for the violence that is taking place in our community and across the world, and particularly as we lift up those in Ukraine, and as we pray for peace. We'll be celebrating Earth Day this coming Sunday, and just continue to be in prayer for how and I say we because all of us, if we are not working to make things better and to cherish the gift that God has given all of us, then we're part of the problem. So we want to pray for that. As I say, if you have special prayers that you want me to lift up, please let me know. You can send it to me via text, email, or on Facebook, because we do believe at Hobson in the power of prayer. And we want you to know that we're praying for you, and we certainly ask that you pray for us. Our reading for this week comes from John's Gospel, the 21st chapter, and I'll be reading for you verses 1 through 19, and I'll be using the New Revised Standard Version. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. And they said to him, We will go with you. And they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, Children, you have no fish, have you? And they answered him, No. He said to them, Cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you will find some. So they cast it, and now that they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. And that disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, It is the Lord. And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. And when they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish on it, and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. Now this was now the third time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you asked to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wish. But when you will grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Well, this is an interesting passage for us to have on this, the third week, all of the things that are going on in our world and within the life of the community. It is one that truly resonates with us. I really look at this passage as being two separate ones, even though it's the same event and it happens at the same time. I think that there are two different focuses, and I really and truly have not determined which one that I will look at, or whether I'll split it up and do 1 through 14, or then do 15 through 19. But just to kind of let you know where I'm going and what I'm thinking, is that it does tell us at the end of this that this is the third time that Jesus has appeared to the disciples. Last week, in our sharing, we had a time where he appeared to them on the evening of the resurrection, and then again on 8 days later, as they were once again gathered. At this time, they were in Jerusalem, and he has shared with them that they needed to leave Jerusalem and go back to Galilee, and that he would meet them in Galilee. Now, we don't know how much time has happened between the time that they go back and this event that we're having. I would imagine that it's probably been maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 of when they've gone back. And we've made a lot about their return and their going back. And what is shared in that moment, we know, and I think it's important for us to know in the story, that not all of them are there. That it appears that the ones who were from the region of Galilee, in particular those of whom beforehand were fishermen, have gone back to Galilee. And I would imagine that we know that Judas has has committed suicide, so he's not in the number. But I would imagine that that all of them were probably there in the area and somehow. But on this particular day, when they were looking for something to do, that Peter had, and his position as the kind of the leader of the pack, has suggested to them that they go fishing. I'm kind of interested in that part of the story, and interesting in that because it asks a very important question. I mean, what do we do when we find ourselves at the moments where we're dealing with the uncertainty, where we have these questions that are going on? I mean, he's risen. They know that. They've spoken to him. There doesn't appear to be that there was any conversation up until that time. I mean, they're there, they're waiting, they're wondering what is going to happen. What is he going to continue to say? Where is he going to challenge them? Even to the point that I think that they're probably thinking at this time, well, okay, he's raised, he's going to come back. And are we going to go start doing the same things we were doing before? Are we going to do those things again? Are we going to be walking around teaching and sharing with people? They really, truly don't know what to do and how to move forward. And so I think that they're just struggling and they're wrestling with this. And in the midst of all of that, they decide to go back and return to doing something that they knew how to do, or at one point in time knew how to do. It does bring up the questions for me, that we know that they have been with him for 3 years now. I wonder, in that 3 years, did they just spend all the time going around, or were there times that they came back? That when they go back to Galilee on this time and they pick up the nets, I mean, were these the boats and the nets that they had just kind of pushed aside, or were they just kind of borrowing? Well, we know with John and James, who were the sons of Zebedee, that was their father's business, and so maybe they borrowed boats from them or whatever. They just needed something to do. And I think there's an opportunity maybe for us to talk while we're in the midst of the things that are going on, in particular when we're thinking about COVID, and how do we move forward now that they're beginning to lift restrictions, and at the same time they're going back and saying, well, we've got to get back to normal. What does that mean for us, and what does the experiences that we've gone through, in particular when we know that some of the things we're talking about going back to times are challenging. I think it's maybe an interesting point for us to look at this story and the comparison, because I think it's interesting that they're saying that they're fishing, but they haven't caught anything. I don't know whether their hearts were in it or what. I just, to some degree, just imagine they're just kind of out there on the boat, just going through the motion. But whatever it is, that as they're, I think, about getting ready to come in, they hear a voice that's from the beach. Now, we know the narrator and the teller of the story lets us know who it is, but they don't know. All they do is they hear this voice of one who is saying to them that they haven't caught anything, and he encourages them to take the net and put the net on the other side for where they're going. I remember, as a child, of listening to that story and wondering, what difference would it have made just a matter of a couple of feet. I mean, the boat would have been maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. So from moving from one side to the other, what difference it would have made. And I don't know. And we don't know how Jesus knew that the fish would be on the other side. But what we do know is that they followed the instructions. As I say, not knowing there was Jesus, just taking, and of course, as they put the nets on the other side, we know that the story lets us know they began to catch a large amount of fish on that. While I think there would be some that would have some problem with us leaving from John's gospel and comparing it to events that took place in Luke. There are some we want us to make sure that you just stay in each gospel because each gospel kind of had a particular focus for it. But I do think that as we look at this story and then we compare it to the other times that they are out fishing, that they aren't catching it. When you go back in Luke, in the 5th chapter of Luke, where he calls to the disciples, once they are there fishing. And they're not doing very well, and he gives them instructions. And once he gives them instructions, and they catch this huge amount of fish, and coming in Luke, in an earlier invitation for him to come, the nets tear, and they are unable to bring all of the fish in that they caught. But in this one, it lets us know they were able to bring it all in, and the net does not tear. For that, there's a message in that for us, and. I'll give some consideration to whether I want to deal with that around the inclusiveness and what God calls us. But I think it's because I want us to kind of focus in on what I think is this kind of recommissioning or the restoring of the call to them. That it was when they had this huge catch. That John says that the disciple of whom he loved then says to Peter, Simon Peter, that's the Lord. And the story says that he jumps up and puts some clothes on. He'd been fishing in the nude, and he puts some clothes on and starts running. He's not even waiting for the boat to come in, but he runs because he's there. And so I think that's an interesting note that even in the midst of where we're trying to wait for us to decide what we do, to know that Jesus is still there and Jesus is still calling us, and Jesus doesn't hold all of the other things that have happened and all of the disappointments that led up to that, and still called. The other part of that story that I think we need to hear is that when they get ashore, they find that Jesus is cooking, and I think the writer lets us know that. Wants us to know that Jesus is there. He's not as some spirit. I mean, he is. He's there in body, and he is eating and nourished, and having those experiences to let us know that he is there in the flesh. But it also lets us know that Jesus is there and he is preparing for them. He has prepared a table for them. He is inviting them to it. And while it says that he has bread and he has fish, he invites them to bring some of the fish that they caught and add it to the table. It is a kind of the sitting down at the common table, inviting people to bring their gifts to the table so that they might be able to share within the community. And I think that's an important message that I may want to explore for us in this time. What does it mean for us to come together for this common table that Jesus has invited, and for what does it mean for us to come and to share the resources that we have with one another, knowing that it is that Jesus that blesses and allows us to be able to multiply and give. As I say, that's kind of the first part, and there's a lot of stuff in that that I think we could go. But then the last part, and I think what many of us look at, is the last part is just the kind of interaction that he has with Peter after the breakfast is over. I think they're all kind of full, and they're going in, and Peter and Jesus ask Peter some questions. Now, I think we know that this is I'm one of those who believe it's added on, the 21st chapter, and we kind of talked about that last week. It kind of ends with 20 and 24. 21 is kind of added on. And I think it's added on for us to kind of understand that later those who are looking at the church and the formation of the church, and Peter has become a leader of the church in that, And I think they want to know that, a little bit more about the story. And so I think that there are those. I'm not for sure that the same writer wrote the 21st chapter, but I think it's written so that we kind of know how it was that Peter had gotten this status that he has. And it's also important for us to know that when we go back to the events that happened before the crucifixion, that we know that Jesus had predicted that Peter would deny him. And even though Peter says that he wouldn't, we know that ultimately Peter did deny him on 3 different occasions. And so now Jesus is coming back, and Jesus is asking him three times, do you love me? And asking these questions. And Peter is hurt in that. But I think it is the kind of showing of how Jesus does want to come and to and to bring about the reconciliation and the forgiveness and the awareness of our call, and that even when we don't believe in ourselves and we've given up on ourselves, that Jesus does not give up on us. And it's very important that when he's asking Peter, does he love him, he doesn't ask him, of course, well, are you going to worship me? Are you going to do all of these kind of things? He says, if you love me, then you will tend to those things that have been important to me, and the loving and the caring, the nurturing of people of whom I came to be a part of. And so that's always important for us to look, in particular for some of us who feel as though we have not done, and we've let Jesus down, we let God down in our actions and some of the things we do, to knowing that Jesus comes to us, comes with forgiveness to us, and still believes in us. So those are the kind of 2 basic stories that are in this passage, and I know that I won't go through both of them because that will make the message way too long, as you can see here tonight. But I just wanted you to have and pray, ask that you pray for me as I kind of narrow it down, and we'll see how it goes on Sundays. But thank you. Oh, all right. How things going with you, Trey?
Things are going pretty good. I don't have any complaints. No complaints.
All right.
Yeah, what about with you, man? What's going on?
Things are going well. Things are going well. What I want to talk, it's a combination of the message, still working on the message, and what is going on, in particular something that went on last night as I was thinking about, I just finished reading the passage and kind of reading the passage and looking at the game all at the kind of same time and wondering. And one of the things that kind of, stood out to me is that, all of the things that we read about, Jesus doing, and some of the great acts and the great, things and even words that he said and just things that he did, people kind of stood around in shock. But we don't ever hear of, people like, oh, wow, go ahead, just kind of throwing up high fives and, just kind of running. And I kind of was thinking about that as I was watching the Memphis game and saw Ja Morant went in and they had a dunk, and of course, and then later on had a game-winning. I mean, I think it scored the last 13 points, and so everybody was just kind of elevating, and just like, he's up in the greatest, and he's doing it. And I mean, and it came, I guess early in the day or the day before, he got the most improved player. It's kind of, he's kind of moving to that. But everybody was like, man, that's the greatest dunk all time in the playoffs and going through, of how people just kind of just get caught up in those kinds of moments and the kinds of excitements of going on. I mean, it was almost lost. I mean, even though he hit the game winning and they kind of, were talking about it, they didn't really talk about them winning the game as much as they're talking about that great dunk and what it kind of did. Now, I'm one of those who think more so it was the Timberwolves losing it than I think of the Grizzlies winning it. But I was just thinking, in how do you? I know one of your great players is Michael, and
Sure.
and then Kobe.
Yep.
I mean, were you drawn to them because of the great feats, the great shots? I mean, do you remember the great shot, or do you remember them because they were a part of a winning team?
Well, it was a mixture of both. Of course, for me as a Bulls fan, I'm still a Bulls fan because of Michael Jordan and what he was able to accomplish as a member of that team.
Still a Bulls fan?
I'm still a Bulls fan. That's my team. I'm not a fair weather, Michael Jordan's not on the team, so I'm not a Bulls fan, or I'm going to pick teams because Kobe's gone. It's like, no, I'm a fan. He caused me to be a fan, so I'm going to remain a fan. Because,
oh, wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait a minute.
All right, cool.
Because I think I remember that you used to be a Buffalo fan.
That's right.
But you now got Eagle stuff.
That's right.
What happened?
What are you saying? Which question do you want me to answer first?
You said that you were a Chicago. Once you became a Chicago fan, you was gonna stick with them,
right?
Even though y'all gonna go home tonight. Okay, it's over with tonight. But you still with it. But I also remember you were a Buffalo fan, but you are now no longer a Buffalo fan.
Right.
So what could Chicago do, to be like Buffalo?
Well, Buffalo, during my younger years of me being a fan of football, I really didn't understand the game as I understand it now. And getting to a point where you're always at the cusp of victory and winning a Super Bowl, and you're always let down. I came to a decision that in that moment, it's like I can't live through that anymore.
Okay.
I can't live through that. So I decided to fly another flag.
At age 10.
That's right.
10 or 11,
it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough for me then because it was like, this is my team, but my team is not performing in a way that allows me to be a fan anymore.
So when has Chicago won since Jordan left?
One. What do you mean? What do you mean? Have they won a championship?
Well,
No.
have they been even to the finals?
Yeah, we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals when Derrick Rose was his MVP season.
The Eastern Conference, but not the
Right.
Okay. Because Buffalo at least made it to the Super Bowl.
Right. But and injury bit us, with Derrick Rose, and we weren't able to kind of see how that was going to take us. So that set the franchise back. When you got a number one draft pick, a MVP, a rookie of the year, and then he's out and he tore his knee up and then came back, tore his knee up again. It's like it's hard bouncing back from that and building a culture and a team that is sustainable. I think we have some pieces now, but we still, we're running up against the buzzsaw that is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Well, how did you manage being a Chicago fan?
Because
with being a Kobe fan.
No. My team is the Chicago Bulls.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
When your team was playing,
right.
the man that you follow.
Oh, sure. I like Kobe's mentality and the way he approached the game and the way that he, was virtually identical to Michael Jordan. He was the coming of Michael Jordan after Michael Jordan. It's been proven. He's like the repeat of that.
But they're in two different conferences, so they never met in playoff count. They only would play during the season. So
Right,
you never
right.
had to make that decision of whether I'm going to
Right. So,
Okay.
so I was never a Laker fan. I was never a Laker fan. I just like to watch Kobe play basketball, and he just so happened to play for the Los Angeles Lakers.
So you'd have been all right if Kobe scored 76 points and lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and and even with all of his accolades and all of the things Kobe was able to do, I still was able to recognize that Kobe still kind of fell short to Michael Jordan in some of the things that Michael Jordan was able to accomplish. So even though he, was the next best thing and was able to fill a void that Michael Jordan left me with upon his retirement, he still wasn't Michael Jordan like that. He didn't have 6 championships and 6 MVPs and, all of those things that Michael Jordan was able to leave us with. But, I've seen Kobe just take the ball game over and impose his will on everybody that was considered to be his matchup.
So it's clear your Bulls are not going to the finals this year. So do you have a player that you follow?
That I followed?
Like Kobe? I mean, I know that because you got Kobe, on the pedestal. But I mean, is there a player that
is in the league now?
Right, that you say, okay.
Yeah, I like Steph.
Okay.
I like Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry is, like you said, he changed the game. He made the game from a shooter's perspective. You know what I mean? He has that green light that I like to see him get the ball and do what he can do with the ball. That's probably my favorite player to watch at this point.
So you'll be they're later on, right, tonight?
Later on tonight.
So
they got
what do you think about him coming off the bench?
I think that's good for the team. And as I got an alert on my phone today that he's going to be in the starting lineup. So, he was on a minute restriction. He had, was coming back from the injury. And because it wasn't a requirement for him to be in the starting lineup to beat the Denver Nuggets, I think it was best for what getting Jordan Poole some, valuable minutes and some experience for him so that can translate to later rounds. And let's say Steph Curry gets hurt again or somebody else gets hurt again, he has that to rely on. I mean, when you have a bench that has experience, that goes a long way in the playoffs. Because if you can put somebody in and it's not like you miss a beat and you just kind of buying time with your stars on the bench, that you can really, keep the game moving and progress in terms of your score or your defense.
Well, let me ask this question. It's
Sure.
kind of tying in and help me a little bit for this Sunday. Who has been or has there been and since we're talking about basketball, but basketball or football, has there been a player that just disappointed you to the point, I mean, where you had them and then they were just like, because I was part of the motivation of this question. I mean, last year, what's his name? Trae Young. Is that the one at Atlanta?
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about Trae Young. They're going through him. I mean, and he just stunk up the gym this year.
Sure.
And I think that Trae was one of those players of whom loved to do the spectacular. Wasn't necessarily about winning, and so now that they were hoping for him to go to another level, I didn't think he had, because you're either out or you're not, and so he just wasn't not. But was there a player of whom you had these kind of expectations and you thought that they were going to be that, and then they just have let you down?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I alluded to it earlier. It's Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. I mean, I was ecstatic when we drafted Derrick Rose
From Memphis.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember, and you probably do, but I mean, him and Ja Morant their games are virtually identical.
Okay.
Small guard, they can jump out the gym, they will dunk on you, they can control the pace of the game. And because his first year, rookie of the year, MVP, I mean, gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he just ran through, that buzzsaw that, it was hard for them to get over. And it was one play here, one play there. It wasn't like they got blew out in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. He missed a free throw, or they made a turnover. So it was like a close ball game. They went, I think it was 6 or 7 games. But anyway, it was one of those things where, oh yeah, look, D Rose is gonna bring the Bulls back on the map. We're gonna get some other pieces around them, and there it is. And so with the injuries, it's like, oh man, he messed up his knee. Okay, all right, yeah. The ACL, MCL, whatever. I mean, they're coming back from that no problem. He can, take a year off or take some months off, and rehab and get back to full strength. And he didn't. I don't think he took enough time. Okay. Like Kawhi Leonard had the same injury Derrick Rose had. And Kawhi Leonard ain't played in a year. So and
more.
Right. And D Rose came back, I think, like after 6 months. Yeah. And when he came back, that game he came back, it was like you could see his knee rupture again. Yeah. So it was just dang. And when you have a team that you have built around a player, and that player is no longer there, you don't have any kind of depth to say, all right, one man up, the next man up. It's like we had nobody to bring up. Because, I mean, if you think about it, after Michael Jordan, I guess another player outside of D Rose was Jay Will. He does NBA stuff on ESPN, but he was but he was our number 1 draft pick after Jordan, and he was supposed to be the next leading force of the Chicago Bulls.
Was he number 2 in that?
Well, I mean, he was the draft pick that we picked in the first round.
Yeah, okay.
And he was supposed to be the guy.
Because I think he was drafted behind. Yao Ming, the guy 7'4" from China.
Yeah. So I mean, of those two, it set the franchise back. I mean, you can't come back from not having your star player out due to some kind of traumatic event. Right, that you can't forecast that. Now, if they're on the team and they're not producing the way that you want them to produce, and you can kind of get them some return on the value of the player by a trade or by whatever, that's another thing. But he blew his knee out, or he rode a motorcycle and messed himself up. It's like you can't come back from that. So did you? After he got hurt, and I know he left the Bulls. I mean, did you follow him after he left the Bulls? Oh, yeah. I'm still a
D Rose fan.
Yeah, I'm still a D Rose fan. Okay. I like to see him, do well. I think now, and he's able to change the way he plays the game, and I hope that Ja Morant is able to do that as well. Okay. Because, like I said, they're virtually identical as their first and second year. And Ja Morant is a small guy, and he plays with such ferocity and above the rim, and he hits the floor a lot. Yeah. And I don't know what his workout regimen is, and I don't know how, what his dexterity is like, but, it's just a matter of time before all of those falls and all of that, all of that movement takes its toll on his body. And if he can't reinvent his game, if he can't, reach in his bag and do some different things on the court without causing, so much stress on his joints and on his body, then, I'll knock on some wood. But, I mean, it's just a matter of time before something like that happens to him as well. I mean, all the good players that started out being using their athleticism to set them above everybody else, that athleticism goes away. I mean, pretty quick. I mean, you got probably 4 or 5 good years of being super athletic, and then you had to do something else. I mean, that goes from Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, whoever you want to name, that was above the rim all the time, every game. Yeah, they found that turnaround, that fadeaway, that 3-point shot. They did all of those things. So, hopefully that doesn't happen with Ja and the Grizz.
Well, I mean, it will, because eventually, as you say, you just can't maintain that level of intensity for that long. So, but it helps me because as much as I think about this passage that we have for Sunday and looking at what's going on. Even we know the story and we look at the story, 2,000 years back, but kind of looking in the real time, when things are not going well, then it's good to know that you have people who believe in you and still want to see good in you. So I am pleased to know that you are still one who pulls for Derrick Rose, even though he is no longer a Bull. And I offer my condolences as once again this year your Bulls will not be back to that place, but we'll pray that one day they'll be back to the promised land that Michael Jordan took them 6 times.
6 times.
6 times.
We have 6 championships in the rafters.
All right.
We're not, like the Celtics or the Lakers. They have, 14, 15, 30 champions, whatever it is.
Right.
But, as far as franchises go, we're at the top of the list in terms of championships. I mean, I think it's the Lakers, the Celtics. Then I want to say not San Antonio. San Antonio's after us,
Right.
But it may be one before Chicago in that.
Okay.
I can't think of.
Well,
think of it this
we'll
time.
allow that information next week as we get ready for the finals. So, all right, thank you. I want to thank you for tuning in and for spending a little time with us as we talk about both the scripture and the NBA. As I shared with you last week, this is my time of the year. I might not have followed as closely during the season, even though the games are important, and I kind of maybe like Trey would tune in to see certain players, but have not really followed. But I really have enjoyed checking in and looking at some of the comparisons between what happens in the world of sports and what happens in our own lives of how it is that we deal with both the successes and the things that disappoint us in this time. And so in the end, only one team wins, and only one set of fans, and the rest of us have to look for next year. But one of the great things is that in looking for next year, all of us look for the next year with a great deal of hope. Nobody goes in and says, "Oh, well, we just stink from the very beginning." In fact, even the Clippers stink at some point in time. Kawhi Leonard would play for them. I don't know when that will be, probably 2030, sometime like that. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. And as I say, if you've got things that we need to hear from you about, please do not hesitate in letting us know. Thank you.